Andrew, you need to be right here. Actually, Roger, real quick, if I just, there's a lot of us. Let's do it this way. All right, as Chief of Police, this is one of the greatest honors I've had since my tenure started here. A lot of times law enforcement gets a bad rap about things, but there are certain things in our careers that you will never forget, and one of them is a life-saving citation that we're about to administer. As Chief of Police of St. Mary's Police Department, I take great pleasure in commending Sergeant Andrew T. Bishop for services set forth in the following life-saving citation. For outstanding service while serving as a patrol supervisor on May 12, 2025, Sergeant Bishop performed his duties in an exemplary and highly professional manner. Sergeant Bishop responded to a report of an unconscious man in a vehicle on Highway 40 near Hubbard Road. After arriving on scene, Sergeant Bishop quickly assessed the condition of the man and determined he was experiencing a cardiac arrest. He quickly removed the man from the vehicle, retrieved his AED, and attached it to the man. Once the initial shock was administered, Sergeant Bishop began CPR. This all occurred within 3 minutes of the initial call for help. He continued doing life-saving measures until relieved by additional arriving medical emergency personnel. While administering life-saving measures, Sergeant Bishop remained cool and calm, and he provided a concise and accurate briefing to other first responders of the condition of the man, enabling them to continue treatment. Sergeant Bishop's quick response and application of knowledge were instrumental in saving the life of one of our citizens and reflects credit upon himself and St. Mary's Police Department in keeping with our highest standards of law enforcement. We are the initial first that got there first. He turned it over to very capable hands. So on behalf of the St. Mary's Police Department, Sergeant Bishop, thank you for a job well done.
After Sergeant Bishop got there, this crew arrived on scene. With this and the EMS unit, they were able to shock the guy 3 times in the back. 3 times in the back of the ambulance also with their life system, and then get him to the hospital. Now, we tried to find out, I know he was still with us the next day. After that, it's a lot of HIPAA violation to find out where people are and all that stuff, so as of right now. So these are the 4 that were on scene. 1 special person was on scene. This is Mason. He graduates Friday. This was his first time he did CPR. We wanted to give that out to make sure that everybody understood that come Friday, he's a graduation, he has his fire 1. Or no, we're testing him. We're coming up to test him. So he got a CPR and all of a sudden he got thrown into the fire. So ours is a little shorter. We don't talk as much as the police department. This life-saving work recognizes individual or teams who have demonstrated exceptional professionalism and decisive life-saving medical interventions during an emergency situation as a result in a life safe. On May 12th, 2025, crews provided highly quality CPR to a patient, leading to a positive outcome. These awards acknowledge those who have gone above and beyond to help others, often above personal risk. We've Captain Todd, engineer, who just got promoted to lieutenant today, Mr. Derringer, I'm going to call you Derringer. We have Brad Weiland and then Mason. So this is the fire department.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, thank you.
And we have a tax allocation district number 3 advisory board a vacancy on that new board there. And we have a board vacancies for the Camden County Board of Education, Sex Educational Structural Review Committee, and the St. Mary's Library Board due to term expiration. So if you have any interest in serving in one of those capacities on one of those 3 boards, please, boards or committees, please let us know and put in an application with our city clerk. We have our report of our city manager.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Format's changed a little bit on our manager's report, so please bear with me and hang on, because here we go. I've been asked to add to it, which, Council, you have my notes, but I didn't put it in writing. The one-year anniversary of our senior center is on Wednesday of this week at 11 a.m. So please mark that down in your calendars. But our community development. The Community Development Department is in collaboration with Code Compliance, is preparing a work session for council to be held in June regarding potential tools to address the blight. The departments have been exploring ordinances, taxes, and other revitalization programs successfully used by Georgia cities to combat blight. The focus will be on commercial property tools that support the Midtown revitalization strategic visioning and planning efforts. In our public works, current vacancies, 5 equipment operators, operator 1s, 3 equipment operator 2s, which are the CDLs. We have 1 position that has a candidate working through the hiring process now, and 1 road maintenance crew leader. We held a hiring event recently. They had 7 potential operator 1 candidates show up for the hiring event. Of those, we're working on 4 of them are going through the process. So we've got folks coming. Mowing Coastal Greenery is in their 2nd month of the contract with the Waterfront Park, St. Mary's Street and Osborne Street, Highway 40. City Council will be voting tonight whether or not to award the contract to Addie's Landscaping for the mowing of Diller Street, Charlie Smith Senior Highway, and Coleraine Road. City crews have been both continuing their mowing routes as well as working on mowing some ditches with the sidearm mower in prep for hurricane season rapidly approaching. In ditches, Crooked River subdivision ditches have been completed along the Winding Road ditch and canal around the perimeter of the development. Crews are currently working in the Shadowline subdivision in the Somerset Drive area. Roadside ditches are completed in this area. The crews are now working on the areas between houses and associated outfall ditches. The outfall ditch along Coleraine Road has been inspected and no work is currently required, but it will be evaluated throughout the storm season and addressed if needed. Crews have started assessing the next area on the list, which is the Crossing subdivision area. Crooked River Engineering Study. The draft study has been received and recommendations are being evaluated by Public Works staff. Anticipate final report to council at the June 2nd meeting. Mission Trace Culverts. It is anticipated that all contract paperwork should be ready for the mayor's signature by Wednesday, May 21st. Contractor has stated that he'll be ready to start projects sooner than anticipated. 30-day mobilization schedule. GEMA, Emergency Generator Project. This project was advertised for bids, but there were no bids received. The Public Works Department is in discussions with GEMA on how to proceed. Yoa Place Drainage. The Public Works Department has been in contact with 3 residents from which easements are needed to install the drainage swell to mitigate the drainage issues at the rear of their properties. All 3 residents have agreed to provide the necessary easements for the project. Next step is for the city attorney to develop the necessary easement documents that will have to be executed and recorded before work can be done. The manhole at Bryant Creek, if you've noticed when you go down 40, we've got a barricade up there. That manhole goes to a 24-inch sewer line that is located 18 feet down. We are working to find a contractor to make emergency repairs to the manhole, and this is being expedited. In finance, Margaret Mosman, our Assistant Finance Director, graduated last week from the University of Georgia Certified Public Managers Program. The CPM is an intensive multi-part program where participants learn about the organizations and how to lead and manage more effectively. Individuals completing the $300 program receive a public manager's certification from the University of Georgia. As a certification program, the requirements include active participation in each class, completion of out-of-class assignments and projects, and full attendance. Margaret has gained valuable knowledge to bring back to the city and enhance her role as Assistant City Manager. Congratulations, Margaret. On June 2nd, the City Council will take action to adopt the FY26 city budget. We have some bids that are opening, just for you to file away. May 29th at 2 p.m., the City Hall renovations, that bid will be opening. June 3rd at 2 p.m., Design and Construction Administration Services for the Exit 1 Fire Station. June the 5th at 2:30, the St. Mary's FY25 LeMig projects. June 5th, 25, Esplanade Boulevard Phase 1A Access Road Project will be opening. And on June 12th at 2 p.m., lead and asbestos removal, St. Mary's Recreation Center swimming pool facility. That will be to mitigate those issues there. Home Service Warranty Loan Warranty Program. Many residents received a letter. I got mine on Saturday. About the service offered to our water and sewer customers for Service Line Warranties of America. This is an optional program that is being provided at a discount rate because the City of St. Mary's is a member of the National League of Cities. The City Council approved offering this program to our residents for the opportunity to participate if they choose. So participation is entirely voluntary. If you have any questions about the program, you can call 1-844-257-8795. If you are interested in this type of protection, you can also contact your homeowner's insurance and see if they have a rider for the same type of protection. Tourism. There is a free water quality training by the St. Mary's Riverkeepers at the St. Mary's Welcome Center on Saturday, May 31st from 9 to 3. The St. Mary's Community Market is open every Saturday. Lucky Duck Splash is Saturday, May 31st at 10 a.m. And Saturday, June 4th is Hello Summer Festival with craft beer tasting event and historic St. Mary's Fishing Classic. Knowing that the public have some questions, I wanted to go ahead and try to answer those. We have received questions about Mr. Walters and his plans for the St. Mary Street. We have met with his representatives, but we are still not privy to know what his plans are for St. Mary Street. Mr. Jacoby filing bankrupt. Where does that leave the city? First, the city has no ties to any bond for the Cumberland Inlet project. The JDA holds the bond for the Cumberland Inlet and is backed by Camden County. There is a bond for the Commerce Park, which is a part of TAB 1, which is doing very well. On some of the taskings that council has given us, the social media policy, we have a draft almost complete, and our media team has been attending the latest training on social media for municipal governance. The team will make any adjustments needed to the draft and will send it to Mr. Blackerby for review before sending to council prior to asking for adoption. The capital improvement plan. We're pulling all the plans and capital improvement needs that we have, and we'll be working to compile them. We are also in discussions with software vendors to look at programs that assist with building a CIP plan. I would like to check the council's availability for the stormwater utility fee structure work session. Will May 29th or June 9th from 5 to 7 work for council?
I'll be gone June 9th, but I'll be here May 29th.
I'm good May 29th.
May 29th works for me.
29th?
May 29th works.
May
Do
29th.
what I can do to be here. I'm on vacation.
All right, thank you for that.
What time is this now?
5 to 7.
5 to 7 on May 29th.
Yes, sir. And just as a friendly reminder for our citizens and for council, June 1st is the official start of hurricane season, which is being forecasted to be above normal activity. 17 named storms are being forecasted, 9 of which are hurricanes, and 4 of those being major hurricanes. Staff has been reviewing our plans and working to be prepared. Citizens should also be checking their plans and making preparations for the potential for one of these storms could bring. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you.
Okay, we will now go through our consent agenda. We have old business, the St. Mary's Commerce Park entrance signage. New business, discussion on gutter implementation into city code.
That's a discussion.
Discussion.
Yeah, it is a discussion.
St. Mary's Aquatic Park 2025 seasonal food agreement renewal with Kona Ice of Jacksonville.
Consent.
Consent.
Consent. Lead service line inventory contract for field investigation services bid award.
Discuss.
Discuss. Mowing contract for Charlie Smith Senior Highway, Dilworth Street and Colerain Road.
Consent.
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 Yep.
Local Road Assistance Administration funds for Mission Trace Drive repair and resurfacing.
Consent.
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 Yep.
Lift station number 13 upgrade engineering service agreement with Goodwin Mills and Kaywood.
Consent.
G temporary construction easement number 3 agreement between Radiant St. Mary's and City of St. Mary's Fire Station Road project.
Consent.
H new alcohol license for Aldi.
Consent.
Consent.
And I, the 2025 GMA annual voting delegate. I guess we'll need to discuss that.
Yep,
So-
discuss.
All right, so the consent agenda as set right now is item B, item D, E, F, G, and H. The other items will be discussed. And so we'll now open granting audience to the public. So if you would like to have a comment on anything that's on the agenda or things that are not on the agenda, we'd ask you to respect the 5-minute time limit and give us your name and address as you come to the microphone.
Mayor, Councilman. Shirley
Um,
Sessoms.
Is the mic on?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
making sure.
Okay, Shirley Sessoms, 114 Boston Court, St. Mary's. I have a couple of concerns. I think when I was here the last time, I said to you all that the lighting in St. Mary's was so bad. Well, there are some street lights that was out. One was on Finley and 40, and the other one was on Charlie Smith Highway and 40. And they've been out for a little bit. I called Georgia Power myself, and I want to let you know they did replace those lights. And I think someone need to look at some of the street lights that are out here in St. Mary's. If you call Georgia Power and let them know it's a safety concern, they will come out and replace those lights. And I know it for a fact because they did it for me. They have done it for me in my apartment area. And they did it last week for the lights that I called about on Finley and 40 and Charlie Smith Highway and 40. So someone need to look into that. The lights that are out, Georgia Power will replace those lights. That could be a safety concern. Okay? And I heard about the gutters, the coating for the gutters. And in consideration, I want you to think about if you decide to have a code for gutters, is this going to be a requirement for everybody to have gutters on their homes and businesses? And I got a little confused about what the requirement may be if you do decide to put a city code on gutters. Is people gonna be grandfathered in, or they got to have gutters on their buildings, or all new buildings being built? Or what is that, you know? And if it is for the old buildings and homes, who's going to pay for these senior citizen gutters? Just asking a question. And, which I don't have a problem with gutters, so don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with that because, are these gutters going to be just seamless gutters, or they're going to be gutters for leaf-proofing gutters, which is the better one to me? And where I was looking at your chart and how the water was draining, and with the water drainage problem we have now, where's this water going? And, you know, we already have this drainage issue. So I just wonder where is the water going to be going if you're going to have pipes going out, where's the water going to end up? Also, this street right here going down, I came down the other day, and after that big rain, I saw a gentleman walking in the streets because the water on the sidewalk was flooded with water, and he had to walk down the streets to get where he was going. You need to check that out. Okay, y'all took care of that?
Took care of it.
All right. You let it rain and I come through there and find water and everything.
Got my number, Michelle.
Okay. And this is my last concern. I'm just going to give you a heads up and make you think, brainstorm on something. We are looking at presenting something for another monument for all the fishermen that was here in St. Mary's back in the days. Because a lot of these fishermen, there was so many of them, and shrimp boats, and back in my days, back in the 60s, you know, fish, shrimps, everything was so plentiful, and these guys fed a lot of Camden County, and we want to honor these people since we historic them too, you know. Put something up to recognize all these guys that was fishing for us and feeding us back in those days, and where the docks we go and peel shrimps and stuff for school clothes and all of that type of stuff, and recognize the two gentlemen that got caught up in the Bermuda Triangle that got lost up in there that was from St. Mary's. So there's a whole lot of history there that need to be put out, and I think that it would be a great thing to have something down to the dock that recognize all of these fishermen. It's a lot of them. And the other day when you was talking about Mr. Wilson, he was one of them. You said he's 94 years old now, and he was one of the fishermen. I remember when I was younger, the Wilsons, I don't call them, Dickie, and all of them. It's so many of them. So let's honor these guys and with something showing that they was loved and appreciated for all the hard work they did back in those days. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I will say that I know city staff calls Georgia Power regularly about lights, and we did get a number of lights downtown also replaced not long ago, but I encourage you to do what you did. It might, if that helps add pressure, let's keep it up.
Tom Canning, 410 Point Peter Place. During your budget public meeting, I mentioned 5 separate items based on eye contact. I believe you all acknowledge them, and whether you do anything, well, so I won't repeat those 5 items. Based on the report of city manager, I know he's working with you guys to start to get a work session going, to have some heart-to-heart and some serious discussion about stormwater management and where we're going to go from there. Some of you, not all of you, but I'll be glad to share it with anyone that wants it. I provided a base email reminding you, or informing you if you weren't aware, that within the outer parameter of boundaries of St. Mary's, there are over 800 unincorporated properties. Okay. Obviously, unincorporated properties are not paying tax dollars directly to the city of St. Mary's. However, when you start doing stormwater management, I think you're going to find it impossible to differentiate between one house or another and whether they're unincorporated or not. So please, in your discussions, please make that at least a discussion item to say, okay, what do we do about these 800 properties? I'm not saying they're all residential properties, but there are 800 different properties or more, and if you're interested, I can share more information how to come about that. So 800 properties that in or around are going to be impacted with whatever plan you come up with in your unincorporated, on your stormwater management. Pardon me. And lastly, on the old business, the Commerce Park entrance signage, I've heard pros and cons offline, and I hope you seriously consider, regardless of the company that's bringing the sign to and install it, I respectfully suggest that you use regular line power rather than solar. I think there's people in the audience who can probably talk more eloquently in detail about that subject, but my vote would be for regular power, not solar, on that type of sign. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bert Seals, 816 Riverview Drive.
Mr. Seals, where's your timer?
I knew he's going to ask me that, but it's in the truck, believe it or not, man. But I got good news today, so I'm like, when I figure you're going to jack me up, I'm going to go ahead and bring my time up. You know? Can I see that? Anyway, I did, two things I mentioned really here is about the palmetto tree and the flags. Those are two things that were dear to my heart. You know what I mean? And when I was coming down City Smitty, I normally go to the left because I know that palmetto tree gonna be there. And of course, I was coming I went right by there. Wait a minute, this thing's gone. So I'm like, I appreciate you guys moving that palmetto tree because it was scratching my truck, and I know some other folks called. They talked about it. And also the flags, man. I'm glad the flags back flying, over at our second city hall. I know when we're going to move in full time, I was looking forward to that so that we wouldn't have to be jammed up in here, man. So I appreciate you guys doing what you're doing. One of the things that, is the citizen input, is the portal up yet?
Yes.
Okay, good, nice. I on a flight. I'm wearing the shirt here that's on a flight where, the guys who, they leave out of Brunswick. And those of you guys who are in the military, please go and do the honor flight. They take you up to Washington, D.C. to show all the sites. It's free of charge. And of course, when we were doing the Vietnam War and all that stuff, we were not welcome back like we should have. And finally, people are doing it. Last year I went on it. I didn't see anything much about it, but I enjoyed it. And they say, big man, don't cry. That's nonsense. Because when we came back on Brunswick, I was the first one in a wheelchair, so when they were moving me in, they striked up the band, and I didn't know they were all there, man. It took me. And, Mr. Rogers behind me here, I encouraged him to check it out. And he went and he said, yeah, man, I teared up too. So, I won't let you, man, go. It was nice. I enjoyed it. And I'm glad he did. And for other folks who, sort of Brunswick, and just call it on a flight, just check it out. And I think you guys go enjoy it for those who are eligible to go to it. It costs you nothing. They feed you the whole 9 yards. There's a lot of things that are covered already, so y'all didn't cover this one. Like I said, I'm a little bit upset with this Jacoby thing. And, on Channel 4, last week, Jacoby's doing a project down in St. Johns County. I don't know if you all know that. You know what I mean? It was on Child 4. So he's leaving us here high and dry. 11th hour, all this kind of stuff's going on. But he's doing a project down there in St. Johns County, which I think is St. Augustine. So maybe, we need to check into that. You get your legal people to make sure he's paying his bond or whatever he needs to pay, otherwise he's hanging us up. So, I know you guys can't see it, but I see it. He needs to go ahead on and get his act together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sills.
You had to tell him that I cried, Larry White, 102 Sylvia's Court. I need to give a shout out to the Public Works Department because they repaired that leak, sewage pipe leak under the bridge on Mickler Drive in a timely manner. I thought they did an excellent job in getting it repaired. And at the same time, though, I will put out the fact that now that school's about to get out, I don't want them to slow down on their getting the grass cut on Mickler Drive. During the summertime, they tend to let it go quite a bit when there's no school in session. And the other thing is, if you're going to talk about having a code for having gutters in the city of St. Mary's, before you even talk about implementing it, you need to have a public hearing so you get the input from the citizens rather than just having a work session where you all sit up here and talk about it and don't take any input from the public. You need to get the input from the public before you start talking about that. Thank you. Roger Shaw, 30 Marymount Court, St. Mary's. Yeah, that's kind of one thing with Mr. Seals, that if anybody's interested in that honor flight, which is usually goes up in the beginning of May, it is really something to attend. And this time around, they were actually opening up to anybody that was in the military prior to 2021. So it wasn't just Vietnam. They're kind of out of World War II veterans now. There were a few Korean veterans, a lot of Vietnam veterans, and there were a few other people, Cold War type veterans. Anything, but anybody's interested, just contact the VFW or the American Legion. They'll hook you up with the people you need to contact for that. Because there's a little bit of stuff you have to go through for that. Did I hear somebody say something back there? No, okay. That's one thing. Second thing is I'd like to talk about the intersection of death out there at Winding Road in Coleraine. I don't know who's responsible for trimming the bushes around there, but on the southeast corner, the bushes are so thick now that if you're going westbound on Winding Road, trying to cross, you have to go out past the crosswalk to be able to see the traffic coming north. It also restricts the people that are turning left into Winding Road because you're out there in the middle and they got to turn in there. So it's bad enough as it is, and with those bushes in the way, it makes it even worse. Okay, so I don't know who's responsible for that, but it'd sure be great if somebody took a look at that and trimmed those back. It wouldn't take too much. I don't want to get my chainsaw and go out there and get trouble. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Dr. Glenn Davis of 805 Wheeler Street, right here in St. Mary's. And just to reiterate what Ms. Shirley had to say about the memorial to the fishermen, I think some of you guys, even the mayor, I have shared this information with you. And we did all we could to make sure that we included everyone. All the names that you see on this paperwork, I know these people personal. Even the ones that got lost in the Bermuda Triangle, I know them personal. So all of this was written basically from my memory. And it happened at the time when Captain Nat Wilson, I think Brother Mike's dad, passed away a few months ago. And I had a chance to sit down and think about this thing. And I thought about how many fishermen have passed and gone on. And we've never had the chance to tell them thank you. from the city of St. Mary's. Now, as Ms. Shirley said, as we were kids growing up, and both families, black and white, basically these fishermen fed all of St. Mary's. In fact, if you didn't work at the big mill, you had a job down at the docks. So now that the docks are gone, I don't think we have finally learned how to appreciate what we lost or what we had. There are not many places that you could go and get fresh seafood like you used to do down on the waterfront down in St. Mary's. So certainly, I think we ought to, if you guys think it's a good idea, let's see if we can put something together to memorialize them and to show the rest of the families that are left, and even the handful of living fishermen that are still here, show them that we really appreciate what they have done for us. Now, let me tell you this too. My granddad, Captain Joe Henry Griffin, used to own the property right downtown where the Howard Gilman Park is right now. Back in the day, it used to be an old railway when they brought the boats up out of the water to caulk them and waterproof them and put them back in the water and put them back to work. Well, that craft is lost now. You know, not many places you can go where they have a railway to get the ships, you know, out of the water and do the work on them. But we had all of that talent right here in St. Mary's, Georgia. So I think it's a good idea if we can get together and show the rest of these families just how much we love and appreciate it, everything they have contributed toward the city of St. Mary's. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mark Fouts, 310 West Bryant Street. Larry, thanks for the segue on what I'm going to talk about. This just happens to be on the gutters issue itself. I'm in kind of a unique position to be able to make a comment on this. I recently acquired a new neighbor, and her house is very close to mine on a very small lot with a pretty big difference in elevation between our properties. And thanks to cooperation between the owner, the builder, and some of the St. Mary's personnel, they equipped that house with gutters, and they equipped it with an underground system for moving the water from the house out to Bartlett Street. Last week we had a little bit of rain, and I took the opportunity to take a walk out in the front of the house just to see what that drainage system was doing. Bartlett Street, I have never seen such a torrent of water going down Bartlett Street before. Probably 10 feet of my yard was under 2 inches of water. And that's a good thing, because had it not been, all of that water would have been on my foundation on my house because of the elevation differences we have. So that system worked exactly the way we thought it would. I'm very appreciative of it. Are gutters required for everybody? I don't know, but I would suggest that if you're going to look at a gutter policy, you need to look at a couple of other things too, which is the proximity of the homes to each other, the elevation differences in the properties adjacent to the homes, the natural drainage, whether it's going down the street or whether it's going to someone's house, and the size of the lots for your drainage absorption. All of those things come into play. But it seems like the developers and the builders, they're getting more and more interested in smaller lots, houses closer together. So as they go into that thing, obviously the land is not going to drain as well. The drainage is going to be screwed up because the elevations are messed up. So in that case, you probably do want to take a look at gutters. If they're done correctly, if they're routed correctly, they do a great job. So please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fouts.
Ken Jelly, 102 Saltgrass Trace here in St. Mary's. Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, members of the public. So I'd like to talk briefly about the proposed sign for the Commerce Park. The design of the sign looks awesome. I think that it certainly will complement the entire facility once the facility is completely built out. And it will also stand out to visitors as they're driving by and give them a sense of the fact that, St. Mary's is small, it's friendly, but it's also progressive, and progressive in the right way. The two proposals that were submitted for the manufacture of the sign, both are very, very similar. One exception stands out, and that is the lighting. One proposal recommends solar lighting, and in my opinion, that's something you really need to look carefully at, because there's some trip levers involved with this solar lighting. For example, you need solar panels. So that's only going to detract from the beauty of that entrance sign. And then you need a battery and a battery pack. And that has to be mounted somewhere down near ground level or on ground level. And it needs to be enclosed and protected from the environment. In the specifications, there's also an indication that there's going to be an item installed called MPPT, okay, Maximum Power Point Tracker. So what does this do? If the battery is fully charged and nightfall ensues, the system turns the lights on. The Maximum Power Point Tracker compares a differential between the charge of the battery and how many hours the lights have to stay on until dawn shuts them off. And if too much power is being drawn from that battery, the Maximum Power Point Tracker is going to reduce that voltage so that there'll be enough left until dawn approaches. Well, in theory, that's a good idea. I would prefer to have lighting at a particular brilliance continuously while the sign is lit. Now, when it's cloudy outside, it doesn't make any difference how smart that electrical device is. When there's no sun, there's no charging of the battery, and there's no light. The other thing about this big battery pack is during an electrical storm, that might be a prime target for a lightning strike. The other thing is maybe that battery was damaged, there's spillage, there could be some problems with cleanup with lithium-ion batteries. One other item to consider is that with solar power, regardless of how smart that equipment is, when there's no sun, there's not going to be any power, there's not going to be any lighting. For the price, compared to Georgia Power, it would seem that conventional power from Georgia Power to eliminate that sign, in my opinion, would be the right decision. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay. Seeing none, we will continue with the agenda. So we first have the approval of the consent agenda, and just to remind staff and everyone, we have consent on items B, D, E, F, G, and H. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, that's Mr. Rassi and Mr. Connors. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
All right, that takes us then now to our first item of business is from old business, the St. Mary's Commerce Park insurance signage. And our Ms. Stein and Mr. Coughlin gonna tag team this? All right.
I'll stand here since I don't have a designated seat. Jamie, while you're getting started, you want me to talk through my stuff?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I'm James Coughlin with the Joint Development Authority. Thanks for having me back this evening. Wanted to talk a little bit about, take everybody back in the, I guess, not that far way back machine to when we decided to do this Commerce Park. The city and the Joint Development Authority entered into an intergovernmental agreement for the repurposing or redevelopment of the old airport into what we decided to call the St. Mary's Commerce Park. So in that IGA, the Joint Development Authority, we serve as your manager for that facility, and we're responsible for the build-out of that park. The arrangement being that we would spend the money based on what was approved, and then once something was done, we would pay it, and then we would submit an invoice to the city, and the city would reimburse us. In preparation for that, we got a lot of opinions of costs from different engineering groups based on what was planned. And pre-COVID, those estimates were around $5 million, around $4.7, $4.8 million. Post-COVID, they were just under $7 million. Prices, as you remember, went up incredibly right after COVID. Given that $7 million number that we are all working with, City of St. Mary's and the Development Authority of St. Mary's issued a bond for $7.6 million to build out the park. All right, so that was for the construction of the road, which used the old taxiway to convert that into a road, the water, the sewer, and then eventually contemplated signage, entrance, landscaping, that kind of thing. At the time, we didn't know how much to anticipate for signage, but we built it into the bond, knowing that we would come back and see what we had left after the critical infrastructure was installed. In addition to that 7.6, the JDA applied and was awarded what at the time was called a Rural Innovation Fund grant by the state of Georgia for $2.3 million. So rather than draw on that bond that DASM issued initially, we drew down on that grant, that $2.3 million that the state awarded us to preserve those bond funds. So we went ahead and put that project out for bid, and kind of similar to something Robbie mentioned earlier, when we put that out for bid, initially nobody bid on it. It was sort of in a sweet spot. It was too big for the small guys, and it was too, it was too small for the big companies, and it was too big for the small companies. But we finally got Jeremy Rowell, went out there and bid on that, and I think he did a great job. That project was finished in October 2024, the road, the water, the sewer, and we closed out that grant with the state. And keep in mind, the way that worked, every time Rowell would invoice the JDA for some work being done out there, we would pay that and then turn around and submit that to the city for reimbursement. At the same time, we were selling property out there, right? So even before it was developed as a commerce park, we were selling property. We sold property, especially structural products, which is right there on the corner of Point Peter and what is now Brick Hill Road. They look fantastic. We sold property to PEMB. They didn't end up utilizing that site. It has since been resold, but the city got paid for that. We sold land to SG Blocks. They didn't use that land, but the city got paid for that. We sold land to Pigmental Studios. They are still waiting to develop that, but the city got paid for that. And in addition, we sold the former FBO building and the surrounding land around that, and the city got paid for that. So we generated millions in land sales for the city. Each time we do that, the JDA handles all the surveying, the environmental work, the wetlands work, the civil engineering, all that, and then we turn around and pay the profits to the city. So it's been a very profitable venture for the city, considering it was property sitting there generating no taxes and honestly being a drain on city resources for years. So what we're coming to you with now is an effort to finish this out. Jamie's going to talk about it from a design standpoint, but I just wanted to talk about it from a financial standpoint. You do have funds left from that initial bond, and you've got funds that have come back to the city from land sales. The bond funds that were issued, just, keep in mind that plan for those bond funds has to go to the court and be validated by a judge, which it was. You can't just use those funds for something else. So this is not like you're making a decision to use this for a sign, an entrance, or use it for the aquatic center or for some other expense that you might have. The plan was to use that for the construction of that park, and that's what those funds had to be used for. So anyway, I just wanted to tackle a little bit of the financial history and how we got here, and I'll turn it over to Jamie to talk about the design. I had a feeling I might need to drag this out a little bit.
How much was left over from the bond?
Is Marcia still here? Marcia's not still here. I'm not, more than enough to pay for this, for what's in front of you.
I'll say, I think part